So like I said, we're kind of doing some more slope-intercept form today. I'm going to show you, of course, one new thing that's called point-slope form. I haven't written it on the board yet, but I'll get to that because you don't always know your y-intercept. So that's really what we're going to deal with today. But let's just review. This is all from last week. Just make sure we have all of this under control. Write that equation in the slope-intercept form. So, of course, you're going to do a little solving for y, really. So I'm going to cancel the 2x out. I'm just going to subtract it off. Sneak it in there. I'm going to try to write kind of small. Now remember, slope-intercept form, the order does matter. You have to put that x term first, and then the negative 20. And of course, we can't combine them because they're not like terms. All right, last but not least, let's divide everything by 5. So I'm going to write it over here so I can put it nice and pretty. So I'm going to put the slope as negative 2/5 x. And then 20 over 5, let's divide that out, 4. All right, so just a quick review, solve for y, nothing crazy there. What is the slope? So you've got your 2 points, so we're going to use the slope formula, my y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. You know I like to label. You don't have to label. Okay, so let's calculate our slope. Second y coordinate, so y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Well, this comes out pretty nice. We've got negative 17 on the top. We've got 1 on the bottom. I mean, you could leave it like that, but let's just put negative 17. Any questions on that? For you guys? Okay. All right. Just some more review. I know, nothing exciting. We're just making sure we have this down. What is the slope, of course, between this pair of points? So same thing. I mean, I like to label, you know. So let's plug that in the slope formula. So same thing. y2 minus y1. So 12 minus 9, x2 minus x1. Now careful on the signs down here. x2 minus x1. So you have that minus and negative. Let's make that a plus. So at the top, of course, 12 minus 9, 3. 0 on the bottom. What's your final answer? 0 or undefined? 0. Ooh, I hear both. I hear both. 0 under the line is undefined. You cannot divide by 0. I'm just going to abbreviate. I like it. All right, let's talk about 4. And I kind of talked about it on the homework a little bit when we went over the graph of that one. What is the slope of the line? Well, easy question for you. Is there an x term? No. So what's the number in front of x then if we don't have it? 0. So our slope is 0. 0x. And that would be, of course, if you had to graph it, a horizontal line. All horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Okay, just some review stuff like I said from last week. Really, the entire front page is review stuff from last week. Just make sure we have it down. Now, of course, we used mx plus b. We're going to use it some more today. I know that you know m, of course, is the slope. We had to graph that and mark that out last week. We know it. We know b is the y-intercept. And then, of course, you've got this x comma y. Well, remember, all the x and the y represent, that's just the coordinates of an ordered pair. So I'm just going to put coordinates of a point. Of a point. Because we really should be aware of x and y, what that really represents, all the points on the line. Remember, there's an infinite amount of points on the line. So we're going to use mx plus b again today. So super easy, and that's just going to put my fraction bar in the right place here. There we go. Write the slope-intercept form of the equation with line with the given slope and the y-intercept. These are my favorite problems ever because there's 0 work for us to do. We can go right to the answer because they give you the slope. So I'm going to put that in front of the x, and then our y-intercept to correspond. Done and done. We should just take a test on these, right? Okay, bottom one again. Don't mind my fraction bar here out of the way. So again, the slope goes first in front of x. Y-intercept. Now, we're smarter than this. I'm not going to write plus negative 10, because what's really plus and negative? Minus. I'm just going to go minus 10. Is it wrong if you put plus negative 10? No, but you might as well clean up and simplify the sign. Okay, I've taught you nothing new, right? That's nothing exciting. Any questions on that? Too easy. I like it. Now, here's the next lovely formula that you might not know. Point slope form. And I am going to fill it in on the board so it's in front of us. So first off, we got to talk about all this stuff in it. why do we have it? Why do we need it? Why do we use it? All the whys, okay? We use it when we do not know the y-intercept. And of course, you know, I gotta add some stuff here to this. Now, I know that you know what the m stands for. What is the m? Slope. Okay, we know the m is the slope. Now, that, of course, anytime I'm writing an equation line, the slope's the first thing I'm zeroed in on, okay? Now, they might just tell you the slope, like those last two problems, slope is 2/3. Okay, great. They might give you the picture of the line. Maybe I had to count rise over run. No big deal. I can do that. I might have to use the y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So slope's easy. I'm not worried at all about the slope. Now, y-intercept. Here's the deal on that. We don't know it. I don't have the b, so I have to use this guy. So the other two values or numbers you have to plug into this equation are these two. So the x1 is just your x coordinate of the point and your y coordinate. So try to use the names of the forms to help you, because you got to kind of know, like, oh gosh, when do I use what equation? I'm going to use point slope when I just have a random point in the slope. Okay, that makes sense to me. Got it? I'm going to use slope intercept if I actually have the intercept. That's going to be really, really easy. Now, you can use point slope on all of them, to be honest with you, but if you know the intercept, why not just use your mx plus b? Okay, so I am going to write this on the board here eventually so we have it in front of us as we work on it. I don't know if you've used this at all. This might not be familiar to you. This might be the one new thing I have for you. Make sure you got the equation written down and we're ready to go. We're ready to go. We're live. I see people still writing, so I'm going to wait a second. It's a tired sort of day, I know. All right, I think we got it. Okay. Write an equation line passing through the point with the slope of 7. Now, again, I'm like, what formula am I going to use? Well, point slope. I'm going to use that point slope formula. So, you know, I like to label everything. So my ordered pair is just my x1, y1, and of course the slope is 7. So I'm going to use my point slope form. Y minus the y coordinate of the point equals the slope, which is 7, times x minus the x coordinate. Now my x coordinate of the point, -2. Now, I don't like all that minus and negative, of course. I'm going to make it pluses. Now, one of the things they're going to ask you to do with some of this sometimes, most of the time, let's be honest, they're also going to ask you to put your final answer in slope intercept form. Because we might have to graph it. We might need that y-intercept. Okay, well, we can do that. I'm going to solve it for y. I'm going to distribute first. I'm going to leave this y plus 3 for right now. 7 times x, 7 times 2. And then, of course, the last thing I'm going to do is just take the 3 off. So now I'm converted into slope intercept form. Because if we had to graph it, this is going to be easier to graph on this. Because what's your y-intercept now? You know it now. What's the y-intercept? 11. Yeah. So I don't know if you use point slope form. This might be the one new thing I have for you. Super easy. Y minus the y coordinate equals the slope, x minus the x coordinate. So we're going to practice a couple more of these. All right, write the equation of the line passing through the point and the slope. So, you know, I like to label. Of course, slope is. So I'm using that point slope form again. I do not have the y-intercept. So y minus the y coordinate of the point equals the slope, x minus the x coordinate. Now, same spiel. I don't like all those minus negatives. Let's make them pluses. And again, they probably are going to make you convert it into slope intercept form because we'll probably have to do some graphing again. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute -2 times x, -2 times 1. And then, of course, last thing, I'm going to subtract the 1. Scroll this up a little bit. So my final answer, I'm going to put -2x minus 3. And again, now you do know your y-intercept would be 0, -3. You got it. So again, this is maybe like the one new thing I have for you. So we're just going to practice a couple of these. All right, write an equation of a line passing through the point that has a slope of a half. Oh, fancy fraction. Okay, we can do it. So again, I'm going to label -2 comma 3 is just a random point on the line. It's not the intercept, so I'm using that point slope form again. Y minus the y coordinate equals our slope times x minus the x coordinate. Now again, let's make our minus a negative a plus. And then same spiel as the last time. The only thing that changes, you have a fraction here. That's not scary. Let's distribute a half here. I'm not scared of the half. Half times x. And this comes out nice. What's half times 2? Half of 2 is, yeah, easy peasy, right? Let's add 3. I'm going to put my final answer, y equals a half x plus 4. And of course, if I asked you, you now could tell me the y-intercept is 0, 4. And we could easily, very easily, draw the graph. Does this seem all familiar from last year? So, okay, good. I didn't know if this was new or not. All right, write an equation line that passes through the point with a slope of, So I see that slope. I see the fraction. Nobody's excited about a fraction, maybe except for me. But you know what? I can do this one with no work. What is significant about this point? It's got the 0 for x. So if you graphed it, where would it land? On which axis? The y. Isn't this the y-intercept? Didn't I harp at you about y-intercepts last week and always writing them 0, point? This is why, this is why. So as soon as I'm like, ooh, I'm winning. That point they gave you is the y-intercept. I don't have to do any work. I know the m, I know the b, I'm just going to write it out. So y equals the slope times x plus the intercept. Now, let's say you're like, oh, I don't know if I would have caught that. Okay. Well, you could still use point slope form, you guys. You could do your y minus the y coordinate equals the slope x minus the x. If you keep going, you will get the exact same answer. So if by some chance, like you just didn't realize that point was the y-intercept, you'll still get the same thing. It just takes more work. That's the downer part of that. All right, you guys are up. Write equation line passing through that point with the slope. I'm going to do the bottom one. Passes through that point with a slope of 2. I'm going to give you a minute to try and see what you get. I'm going to go ahead and start working on this first one here. So, of course, our point, unfortunately, there's no 0, so just a random point on the line. So I'm going to have to use my point slope form. So I'm going to do y minus the y coordinate equals the slope x minus the x. Now, I saw some of you get your calculators out for the fraction work, but you guys, I made this one kind of nice for you. When you go to distribute that through, obviously the -2/3 x is easy. Negative and a negative, and 2/3 times 3, what happens to the 3's? Cancel, yeah. Bam. You're welcome. Okay. I mean, you can use your calculator, but we should be able to do that in our head. All right, and let's add to final answer, -2/3 x plus 4. Got it. How'd we do? Questions on that one, anybody? All right, let's do the bottom one. We're so excited today, I know. All right, x1, y1. So same thing, -4, -5 is not the y-intercept. So I'm using point slope form. Y minus the y coordinate equals slope. Nice whole number too. So this one really just, you have to be super conscientious of your signs. I'm going to make these pluses. I know you can distribute it to 2 times x, 2 times 4 is 8. Final answer, y equals 2x what? Plus 3, I heard it. And I like it. Okay, any questions on those two? Nothing? All right, last page, let's do it. Okay, write an equation of a line passing through the point with a slope of 0. Okay. So again, I'm going to show you 2 ways you can do this. So right away, I'm like, okay, slope is 0. We've seen that today. It's a horizontal line. Okay. So I think I could almost do this one with no work. But if I'm not making that connection, point, slope. So I can use my point slope form like we just did the last 2. Y minus the y coordinate. Nope. Don't let the 0 scare you. X minus the x coordinate. Now, I almost like the 0. Because what's 0 times anything? 0. So I just have a big giant 0 over here. I felt bad saying that. And then, of course, last but not least, I'm going to get y alone. We're just going to subtract 6 over. So my final answer, y equals -6. Now, if you are more intuitive thinker, I could have done that with 0 work, you guys. Because I'm like, slope is 0. I'm going to have 0x. And it's a horizontal line. It's going to hit the horizontal, the y-axis at -6. So if you recognize that, you can just steal the y coordinate over there and you're done. It will work every single time. Always use point slope. Now, 2, passes through the point, undefined slope. Interesting. How am I going to distribute undefined through? Like, that's weird. We can't do that. Okay, so undefined slope. We've seen it. We know it. Undefined slope remembers a vertical line. This is just kind of a hoopty sketch of it. All vertical lines will always hit the x-axis. So they're always x equals. So I don't even have to do any work for this. Now, if it's going to go through this point, and I know it's an x equals style equation, it better hit the x coordinate of the point. So my final answer is just x equals -2. So just like here, my horizontal y equals, and it has to hit the y coordinate of the point. You can do these with no work, which is really kind of nice, and we're kind of big fans of that, okay? All right, so last thing here we have, writing equations and lines from the pictures. So we're looking at the graphs. So we want to calculate the slope, of course, from a graph. We did this last week. We haven't done it yet today. We're just going to count rise over run. Now, we're also going to take a look at our graph, and we need to know where it hits the y-axis, because that's going to be your y-intercept. Now, notice on these pictures, and I picked these pictures on purpose, because last week we were super nice to you. We gave you 2 points, two distinct points to count between. We didn't on here. You can pick any 2 points you want. So I'm looking, as I'm examining this line, I'm looking for a point where it hits right on a corner. I'm like, okay, right on a corner. I'm going to use those 2. You can use any 2 you want. All right, let's count it. So I'm going to count from the top to the bottom. Rise, down 2. I'm going to put -2. -2. And my run, right 1. Well, let's just put -2 for that. Now, next thing you have to look at, easy question for you. Where does the graph hit the y-axis? 3. I heard it right here at 3. Okay, so I'm ready for my final answer. And really, when you're doing these yourselves, you really probably don't have to write anything that I just wrote. You can go straight to your answer. Y equals the slope times x plus the y-intercept. Got it. But you know, I like to write more than probably you do. All right, so same thing. First, I need the slope. So no 2 distinct points given. I'm going to pick any 2 that hit nice in the corner of the grids. So like I see, here it hits nice on the corner. Here it hits nice. So any 2 points that are nice corner, not in the middle, you're hitting right on the intersection of the grid. All right, I'm going to count from this point to the other one. Rise, up, 1, 2, 3. My run, 1, 2, 3, 4 to the right. Got it. Now, y-intercept, hits our y-axis right here at -1. I'm ready for my answer. Y equals our slope times x and the y-intercept. So probably, I don't know, I don't really think I taught you anything new today, but this might be the only kind of new stuff, these tricky ones with the 0 and undefined. I think the rest of it's probably pretty